938 Live. This is Talkback.
How early does tuition begin for your child? Well, more parents are enrolling their kids in preschool enrichment classes. Are you one of them? A recent Today newspaper report interviewed some parents, including one who spends about, get this, $3,000. And this is for a 14-week term of enrichment programs for her kids, okay? She's got a 3-year-old son. Her 5-year-old son spends his day in phonics and math enrichment classes. This is followed by Chinese lessons.
Right.
All of this amounts to a full day of lessons. And this is in addition to the kindergarten classes that he attends on weekdays. Preschool enrichment centers say that they have seen a substantial growth in their enrollment figures. But do you see that as being a little too much for a 5-year-old or even a 3-year-old? Let's look at some of the reports from the preschool centers. Yeah? Leap Schoolhouse says it has seen an average of 30% growth every year over a 5-year period. Stanford Education says it has waiting lists for many of its preschool courses. Waiting lists. And you can choose from a variety of courses which cater to children as young as 18 months. 18 months.
They can barely talk.
1.5 years old. There's English. Well, that'll teach them how to speak, I'm sure. Basic math, phonics, definitely will help you help you speak. Chinese, reading, writing, even leadership and brain training programs.
Oh, wow.
See, you've got to start at 18 months.
They should
Otherwise, you end up like me.
Yeah. They should learn to start marching as well, I suppose.
Have you enrolled your kids in any of these classes? The sky is the limit, some might say. How much time do they spend on these? And how do you decide what classes they should go for? Why do you see them as being necessary? Some parents tell me that, my children are very happy to go for such classes, so that's why I do it. But do you make them go even if they don't seem to be enjoying them? If you've chosen not to enroll your kids in such classes, tell us why as well. Call us 669-11938. You, of course, can also talk to us on Facebook, official 938 Live.
You know what they say. I mean, excessive tuition, first of all, has been making the headlines here in Singapore more and more. And the issue of whether parents are sending their children for tuition and enrichment classes at too young an age was raised last month by a participant at the Youth Dialogue with Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. And the PM said that the education system in Singapore is competitive and that parents are anxious for their children. But the PM stressed that such classes should be an option only for struggling students. Yet, many students, or rather parents actually, feel clearly different. Some say every point counts, and if their child gets 95 out of 100 on a test, tuition could certainly help them to get full marks, so why not?
Even if it's 96 or 97, at least it's 1 point more.
Yes, but I mean,
a lot of people say it's the way our education system is structured, those PSLET scores, which, all of that is about to change soon. But the number of tuition centers and enrichment centers, indeed, that are registered with the Ministry of Education have increased. In 2012, there were about 700. Today, there are 850, okay? Obviously, it's a supply and demand issue. There is more demand, so of course there'll be more supply. Tuition fever has even infiltrated the realm of sports. Over the years, many parents have talked about sending their kids to sports tuition classes so that their kids have a better chance of getting into choice secondary schools through the Direct Schools Admission or DSA scheme. The scheme does recognize your child's other talents. To think that your child's natural talent will not be good enough, that you really need to hothouse them in terms of sports tuition as well. Are you one of these parents? Are you one of these kids?
Well, one center, My Little Genius, runs a program for 4-year-olds called Genius Leadership. And children participate in activities such as eye training, IQ games, music appreciation, and math games. BrainFit Studio focuses on training 5 core skill areas: visual, auditory, attention, EQ, and sensory motor, to help kids focus, process, and remember information easily.
Okay, this actually does explain part of the mystery of why many adults I know can't do any of these things. Can't focus, can't process, can't remember information easily.
Yeah.
You think you might have benefited from such classes as a child, Andre? Would it have carried you into your 50s? Was it necessary to
I
do
am
it
in
at
my
that time?
50s now.
Enrichment centers actually do say that scientific research shows early exposure to learning gives children a head start. So do you feel your children perhaps need that head start? They will not excel in primary school and in life without exposure to such programs beforehand.
Actually, you think about it, right? In the way we played, we actually did experience all of these things. We were visual, we were auditory, we were yelling and screaming in the playground, paying attention. Yes, we were playing catching. We had to see how we could catch the person running away as quick as possible, take the fastest route. All of that.
But yeah, maybe we would have benefited more from these other things. Because really, I do observe a lack of focus and all that in some people. Give us a ring, 669-11938. Some people say that they do this because they don't have enough time for their kids. So it's better for their children to be in those classes on the weekends. Well, I don't know. Should enrichment classes be your child's babysitter? Really?
Exactly. Then you're passing the buck to somebody else.
Speaking of that, in fact, a senior lecturer at the National Institute of Education's Curriculum Teaching and Learning Group, her name is Dr. Christina Lim Ratnam, says that research shows that while the early years of a child's life are highly formative, actually the best environment in which to stimulate your child is at home.
Yes. Home.
With you, with the parent, okay? So don't just leave them at home in front of the TV. You have to do a little bit more than that. According to this particular researcher, the best stimulus to learning and early childhood development is socio-emotional, okay? The infant experiences feelings of joy, love, security. Therefore, parents and family members, she says, must be responsible for the growth and the development and learning of their child. So how involved are you in your child's development at home? Do you spend quality time with them at home, or are they spending their free time at enrichment classes away from you? And what should childhood really be about?
Yeah.
Indeed, Dr. Lim Ratnam says the stimuli offered by enrichment classes would be beneficial to children whose home environments are not rich in stimuli. What about for parents who can't afford such classes? Are such programs widening the gap between the have and the have-nots? All the haves, please call us 669-11938. Those of you who consider yourself have-nots, we want to hear from you as well, because this is actually a serious issue.
It is.
A lot of people saying that there's no level playing field. People with the money can afford to enrich their children in this manner. And
we have to qualify this. There's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's your money.
Absolutely.
And your child, so you're entitled to doing that. But also, what about the people who can't? Do they feel as if, they will never catch up, or it'll be harder for them to catch up? They have to work all the more in order to be able to do just as well in life in Singapore. Social mobility does not seem to be too great an issue, although some people would say, we're talking about things like income inequality in Singapore.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing, and it can cause a lot of social problems in the long term. Do call us on 669-11938. Tell us how early tuition begins for your child. Is preschool enrichment now the big thing? According to reports, it is. In your life, how big is it? In your child's life as well. Call us 669-11938. We'll talk to you in just a moment. How early does tuition begin for your children? More parents are enrolling their kids in preschool enrichment classes. We're talking here about children as young as 18 months old. English, basic math, phonics, Chinese, reading, writing, even leadership and brain training programs. I'm in my 30s and I still haven't gone for brain training programs. I think I might need them, seriously. I mean, if 18-month-olds are doing this, what's wrong, man? Something is wrong. Call us 669-11938. Are we taking it a tad too far? One parent reportedly spends about $3,000 on 14 weeks of enrichment programs for her young kids, including her 3-year-old and her 5-year-old. Let's see what Anthony has to say about this. Hi, Anthony. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Anthony.
sir.
The thing is, if the parents feel that they can afford it and they want to spend the money, go ahead. But as for the advertisements of the tuition centers, it is up to the parents for their own discretion.
Right, sure. Thank you very much, Anthony, for that. So Anthony feels, yes, of course, people with money should go ahead and do this, and I think rightfully so.
Yeah,
however, is it good for your kids? Some might say some parents are going a little too far. Call us 669-11938. What do you think? Mr. Tam joins us now.
Hi, Mr. Tan.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning. What do you think?
It appears that there's a race towards more and more tuition, and the starting age seems to be getting earlier and earlier. In a way, it reflects the parents' anxiety for their children to get an edge over other children when it comes to academic success. But I guess the key question the parents need to ask themselves is whether such enrichment programs really does benefit their children in the long run. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to the learning process for a child, to me, it seems that learning through play is the best way to learn, just like what we have done in the past.
Right.
But the sad thing is, if you look at the playgrounds nowadays, it is literally empty most of the time, because the kids most of the time are either engaged with the IT devices,
right,
or they are stuck in the tuition centers.
Right, and they call that play. So playing with your iPad is play, right? When actually, if you speak to experts, they'll say, yes, the digital play is okay, but you should balance it off with more kinesthetic play, real life play, And a lot of parents tell me that they send their kids to formal play sessions in enrichment centers, right? Didn't you do that, Andre? You were talking about how you did that with your children, right?
Yeah.
So couldn't you do it on your own? Why did you need to send them to a class to learn how to play?
Well, actually, that's a very good question.
But I do see the point, because then you get to socialize with other children.
That was mainly it. Actually.
Yes, but you see, in a more natural situation, you'd be able to socialize with children within the neighborhood.
That's true.
Within where you live.
Correct.
But now, because of our lifestyle, so on and so forth, some parents feel that they have to send their kids to formalized play sessions, at some of these centers that offer them. We know some of the more well-known ones, right? But thank you very much, Mr. Tan, for bringing that up. In fact, researchers have made a case for parents to be spending more time with their children. And you can do play with your kids one-on-one as well.
That is
maybe
more
with
important.
the neighbors' kids as well, bring everyone in and do a lot of that. Felicia Huang apparently does that on her own, and we'll be talking more about what she posted on Official 938 Live, our Facebook page. Stay with us. Talkback continues right after news and sports. How early does tuition begin for your kids? Many parents enrolling their kids in preschool enrichment classes. Are we going a tad too far here? A recent newspaper report in the Today paper actually interviewed some parents. One of them spends $3,000. This is $3,000 on a 14-week term of enrichment programs for her kids. This includes a 3-year-old boy. Okay, lots of classes to choose from: English, basic math, phonics, Chinese, reading, writing, leadership, brain training. And all of this for kids as young as 18 months. So how early are you starting? Are we taking all of this a tad too far? Well, educators say that actually, yes, there is some merit in doing all of this.
Yeah.
But what's more important is that you spend time with your kids, stimulating them at home. And one of our listeners, Felicia Huang, has written in to say that she does just that. Felicia, thanks for talking to us on Official 938 Live, our Facebook page. Felicia says, she doesn't say I don't send my kids to any classes, but she seems to imply that she does a lot of it at home. She says our 5-year-old attends kindergarten classes only. Okay, so that's the only type of class. And they spend more time coaching him through outdoor sports, read and tell sessions, impromptu drawing sessions, baking, understanding numbers, correcting his spelling. Poor boy, 5 years old, already being corrected. Good training for primary one, I guess.
Yeah.
How to read a clock and all of these things. Felicia says that she and her husband make every opportunity to hug him, understand him, smile with him. He is so precious. So nice, Felicia. I can so tell you love your child, and you spend time enriching him yourself rather than sending him for those classes. I'm not saying those classes are all bad. There is merit to them, but how far is too far? Going too far with exposing your kids to such things. Joining us in the studio right now is our colleague. He's our deputy chief editor as well. Good morning, Jamie Ho. Thanks for joining us. So you're a father of two, right? And
Yes.
we've all three of us sat down before and talked about what it's like raising kids in this day and age. So tell me what you think of all of this.
Yeah, well, I was just walking past you guys, and then I heard Mr. Tan, right, on
Yes.
Yes.
on air just now, and he raised a very important point as far as I'm concerned about the value of play. And I firmly agree with him. And I think one thing which sometimes people forget about how important play is that it teaches children how to fail.
Yes.
You fall down a tree, you get up the tree again, you learn how to do it better. You may fall again, but you learn how to get up again and do it again and do it better.
Some of these providers of enrichment classes might tell you they do the same thing.
Well, what they teach you to do is how to climb a tree. And sometimes
Not why you should
why you
climb.
climb a tree, how you should do it better. And sometimes many of these things kids need to learn by themselves. And I think the value of learning how to fail is something which nothing can teach you. And I suppose if you never learn how to fail, when you eventually do,
Yes.
I think that's where sometimes
The more dire consequences, actually.
well, it is a skill that everyone needs, whether you're in school, whether you're working, how to fail and how to get up.
Because
It's all sorts of
resilience.
things.
It's resilience as well.
Exactly.
And it's all sorts of things that actually you can teach your child at home yourself, right? It's not like, I don't know, parents seem to have become people who just stand in the back and say, okay, I'm going to sign you up for these classes, but I'm not going to do any of this stuff with you.
Well, I'm a firm believer in what I would sort of characterize now as organic teaching. You teach simply through the examples that you set, the things that you do, how you speak to people, how you count, how you read, how you talk. And hopefully over time, these things pass themselves on to your children. And I think normally they do because they always look up to you as their role models anyway.
Jamie, how old are your children?
Well, I'm lucky they're way past this age. One is in Sec 3 and one is having her last day of PSLE today.
wow.
Pressure,
Okay.
pressure. And you're at work. So is your wife at home coaching?
No,
She's not biting her nails or anything.
No. We are trying
Freaking
to
out.
sort of tone down the stress a little bit for her.
Okay, that's hard to manage though. Over the years, do your kids go for enrichment classes now? At this later stage in life, do they have lots of tuition as well to deal with the competition?
Yeah, the bare minimum as far as I can help. Since you mentioned it, I suppose one of the main things which we all have to accept is being parents these days, especially parents with the necessary resources. It's actually getting harder and harder.
Yeah.
Harder
it
and
is.
harder to make the choices as to whether or not to send your kids for a particular program if you can afford it. And if you feel that you can afford it, more often than not, you will do it. Because no parent wants to make the decision, I think no need, I think I'm going to let him play.
Right.
Because you're
Or
gonna
I'm
be-
going to let him have some free time instead
Exactly.
of hot housing in some other way.
So, there's so many options available that there are necessary resources. You are able to do it. And if you are able to do it, most parents will err on the side of caution and says, be a big kiasu, why not?
Is that
Let's
what
do
you've
it.
done?
No.
Okay,
I've
so
not
we'll...
done, but I can see the pressures in having to do it.
Okay,
Sure.
we'll talk about how you have managed to resist and go against the grain in just a moment. I want to hear from Mr. Wee first. He joins us now. Hi, good morning.
Hi, morning.
Good morning, Mr. Wee. What do you think?
Good morning. I just want to say that I have a daughter, so I actually gone through the whole entire process of enrichment classes. She's now 6. She started enrichment classes at 3. Right?
Okay.
I know there's a lot of talks about whether should you start early or should you start late. I think a lot of people are starting at 18 months. I think when I was planning to start at 18 months, a friend actually came and told me, are you afraid that she doesn't have time to ever take up enrichment classes? Because she has a whole 18 years from then to take enrichment classes. I think more importantly is whether the child enjoys it. If the child enjoys it, I think that's fine.
Right,
but
right.
if the child doesn't, then I think it's better to take the child out of it because every kid needs a childhood, whether it's a digital play or whether it's a formalized play. But parents today, like myself, we don't have the time to work with them. Even if you ask me to work on spelling, it takes so much patience and takes so much time in our demanding lifestyle, our work, and etc. So it's very, very tough.
One might say, I know I'm going to come across as being a little judgmental when I say this of parents, but one might say that if you decided to have children, you should have also thought about how you would spend more time with your children and actually spend time raising them yourself instead of outsourcing a lot of the work to enrichment centers.
We would love to, but it's unlike our parents' days where, they don't have the internet to keep them updated on 24/7 on their emails. There isn't WhatsApp or the smartphone. I think that's one of the causes of it as well.
Right,
and
where your boss can reach you at all times.
Yeah, and the demands of today's education in the primary school, I mean, they're doing things which I have never done when I was in primary one. I was still running around playing football and catching spiders. But today they are doing a lot more that even for us, we might not even understand why they're doing it.
Let me ask you this. You said that you started your child on enrichment classes at the age of 3, when she was 3 years old. What sort of classes did she go for?
When she was 3, she actually went for additional classes to give her some mind training in terms of remembering things. It was very useful because it was parent-accompanied program.
So you went with her?
Yeah, otherwise my wife or myself will go and sit with her during the classes.
That sounds good.
And we actually try and understand what's going on in the class, and then we could practice it with her at home. So I think that's very important as well.
You mentioned also the demands of education in general, primary school education and all that. So you think it is necessary for this type of preparation to take place in order for your child to be able to survive in the long term in the school system?
I don't think it's necessary, but because I have to admit that it's because of the kiasuism in me being a Singaporean, you don't want your child to go to primary one and get a shock of a life, and then you come back and stress yourself out after. So it's better to be prepared, but I hope to keep it a balance. So like classes, some of the classes I just take her out of it that she didn't enjoy anymore. I'll just take her out of it instead of putting her through it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wee. Mr. Wee, of course, did say that very important for the child to be enjoying these classes, but also
and a balance.
Yeah,
keeping it as a balance.
But the point really is that yes, a lot of parents say that these classes do give their children an edge in primary school, a leg up, and imagine what it must be like for those families who cannot afford such classes. Let's see what Derek has to say about all of this. Hi, Derek. Good morning.
Hi, morning.
Morning,
everybody.
Derek. Yes.
Okay. Just like to share, some pointers. In fact, I actually kind of agree with the earlier caller. Definitely, I think for most kids, we are actually, also giving up a lot of pressure. But I think somehow this pressure just come, by means of, because of society. Because I think the expectations from everybody from all corners are there. And I think the poor kids, that by the time they reach so-called the P1 stage, they are expected to know a lot of things. And you'll be very surprised that when it comes to P3 or P5, some of the questions, even some parents are unable to solve it. So this is really something, very true life, whereby if you do not start the kids at a very young age, I think for them to actually cope, to follow through the system, they will be actually lagging behind. And I think more tuitions got to come in, at a later stage.
Right.
Yes. Just personally, because I'm in this so-called, tuition industry.
No wonder.
So many kids are trying to struggle just to cope up with the so-called school syllabus. And I mean, to be very honest, I think the parents are all trying to just cope with the system. I mean, no doubt the MOEs are actually saying that, okay, I'm trying to, cut less, shorten the syllabus, teach more, but yet, not less. But I think it's always the other way around. I think if you look at so-called all the past papers, I mean, you'll be very surprised that even some questions, if you just give it to the adults, I think adults will be scratching their head, what is happening, what kind of questions is this?
Right. And Derek, while you speak as a person who is in the business of tuition, I think some of the views that you have mentioned, I have heard parents express as well.
That's true.
But, should the tuition industry be capitalizing on the kiasuism of parents who feel that, my child might be able to survive without tuition, but I want them to get that last point, and every last point counts. Some might say, yes, fair enough. There is demand for these things, so why not create the supply as well?
Yeah.
Wonder what you think about this. Call us 669-11938. But Jamie, who's in the studio right now, our colleague and deputy chief editor, who is a father of 2 himself. Jamie, you said earlier that you have, as far as possible, resisted the siren song of more tuition and enrichment classes for your kids. How do you manage in this type of environment? As our last caller also mentioned, it's really competitive. There are great pressures and demands on parents and kids.
I suppose to wrap up, the only thing that I can say is that all of us as parents must and should have a little faith in our children. That push come to shove, they can stand on their own 2 feet. We can sort of point to societal pressures, competition. But at the end of the day, each one of us can make that decision. If you feel your child is fine, if you think your child can get an A instead of an A+, spend a couple of hours playing, do it. I don't think we need to feel pressured to do something that we deep inside feel that we shouldn't or can't.
Okay, there's a lesson to be learned here. Get your child to stand up for something, which is what I think some parents are doing. That, yes, all of you might want to run off and hothouse your kids, but I've decided not to. I have different values. Stand up for those values and resilience. In the sense that, yes, if things are hard, never mind. Try and try again.
Get up.
Don't be, so concerned with, I'm going to need tuition to do better.
You don't have to do things
only
right.
Tuition.
You don't have to do things right all the time.
As well. Thank you very much, all of you, for your phone calls today. Really appreciate it. Just closing with this one comment from David Wong on our Facebook page. He says, I don't send my kids to any enrichment classes at all. Time, not money, is the issue. I and my wife, like many other parents who both have full-time jobs already, have limited time with the children. So we're better off spending time with them when they are free, learning through play rather than leaving them to learn from a bunch of outsiders at these enrichment classes.
Totally agree.
Thank you, David, for your comment as well.